Hi, welcome to Scattered Chats. I'm Henry Belnan. Today we are talking to Matt Graham, a Pixel stylist and front-end developer at Github. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Cool. Well, first of all, for people, what is GitHub?
GitHub is we're basically an online app to allow developers and really contributors of all kinds to work together, whether they're remotely, whether they're in the same office, on different time zones or whatever. You look at it as a code repository that you can push code to and submit to, working alongside of other people's. Obviously, when there's conflict, it allows it to work them out. But basically, lets developers work together no matter where they are.
Well, cool. Well, how did you end up at GitHub? How did you end up working there?
You know, I worked with four other guys at a company called Ordered List out of South Bend, and we worked together for a good year and a half. And GitHub actually came to us, and they kind of saw some of the things that we were doing, some of the apps that we had built, and said, we want all five of you to come work with us. So it was kind of a fun November, if you will. I remember meeting Chris Wanstroth for the first time at a Rails conf, and John Nudemaker, who worked with Ordered List, had mentioned to me after Chris had walked away, he goes, "Do you know who that was?" And I said, "He seems familiar, but no, I don't." And I found out later that it was the beginning of him kind of looking into wanting the five of us to join.
So he knew who you guys were before you even knew who the.
He knew John Nudemaker and Steve Smith, I think, the most. I had met him at some conferences, but I think John and him had a relationship before. They had seen some of the apps we were doing. They said, we really want involved in what you're doing, or we really, more importantly, want you involved in what we're doing.
Oh, that's cool. So first year and a half, you started a company, and within that, you guys got acquired. What was that process like?
It was what happened is Steve Smith had started freelancing on his own. He was the first and the original Ordered List, if you will. John Underbaker shortly after that, and then the other three of us came on quite a few years after they had started. So it started going from freelance to really us kind of running a five-man shop, having a lot of fun what we're doing. And so when Chris had called, we were pretty satisfied with what we had built, with where we were going. We were satisfied with building our own culture and schedule and things like that. So it was a little surprising to even think of not doing the same thing. But the further we looked into GitHub, the culture, the things that they were doing, they really aligned well with what we had built, with what we had wanted, with what we had dreamed of. And so it was a lot of fun kind of really figuring out not what GitHub's done on the outside level, but what they're like on the inside. And if we're willing to merge into this, at that time, only 50 other people, is it going to be the culture we wanted to build at Ordered List? And if so, what can we do just to make that whole experience better?
Okay, so you guys got acquired by GitHub. You work remotely, all of you. So what was your first 2 weeks like at GitHub, and how did they onboard you?
Well, I think it's interesting. Onboarding typically for GitHub is you spend the first week or 2 weeks typically in San Francisco. We kind of buddy up with someone. We allow you to kind of get one-on-one with some person going through the GitHub process. Things like boxing, since I've come on, really sets your machine up in a couple of hours versus a couple of days like we had it before. For us, it was a little different because we were coming five people to come on. They basically said, we want you to keep doing what you're doing in our umbrella or under our umbrella. And so we kind of came on with our day not changing a ton. So we got the slow process to move into GitHub.
Okay. So Dave Peckins has a question. I mean, you don't get a lot of, because you're remote, you don't get a lot of FaceTime with your team. So I guess tell me about that experience.
Yeah, we do a lot of, my core team that I'm working on right now, there's about 5 or 6 of us. And depending on the day, we'll do a lot of the Google Plus Hangouts and things like that. Brandon Keepers is just on the other side of Michigan, so Brandon and I will meet up every couple of weeks. But we do a lot literally in the pull request, in the issues, and in the chat room. There's a lot of communication. I'm only out to San Francisco 5 times a year, which can seem like a lot or a little depending on who you are. So I don't get a lot of in-office time. but we're oftentimes communicating all day. That's obviously why we built. That's obviously why we built issues and things like that the way we did, so that this process is easier.
Now, do you do a lot of, I know you're a front-end dev, but also a designer. Do you do more of the designing piece, or do you do more of the front-end development?
My core role is as a designer. But at GitHub, we have two animators who don't touch front-end code. But other than that, any designer touches front-end code. And most developers have an idea, although it might not be amazing, at design. And so oftentimes, I will start in Photoshop, we'll throw through issues, we get kind of thumbs up and feedback through things, and I will start the front-end shell of it. So to answer your question, I guess, my first role is to put the pixels together in a beautiful way. Along with that is to come alongside and do the front-end side, and often we'll get some of the developers to kind of plug things together. And usually as a designer and a front-end guy, I come back again at the tail end and say, yeah, these pixels weren't perfect the way you did this. And we kind of work well, obviously, together to make the end product as best as we can.
So what do you guys do to, you create something in Photoshop. How do you make it seamless to share your ideas and your designs with other people? Because in Office, it's easy to call someone over, get feedback from whoever's working on it, and move on. There's a little bit more friction working remote. What kind of tools do you guys use to share designs?
Everything's done inside of GitHub. Everything's done in issues and things like that. We use the Campfire chat. We've got, I don't know how many chat rooms right now, and each team breaks down to their own chat room. So we'll throw stuff that way. But to make sure that the entire team has feedback and is able to, beat up the ideas, or for me, beat up the designs, beat up the concepts of things, we oftentimes will create an issue on everything. We design and build usually because there's a problem. Because we're trying to make, obviously, we have the benefit of dog fooding what we do because we're building it so that we can work better. So it makes the process for the end user much easier because their goals are typically the same as ours. And so everything becomes an issue. If the pull request process is a little more difficult, we can design concepts around it. Sometimes we go right to code. Sometimes we'll put a pull request together that says, this is how I would make this better. And push it out there. We typically will push a pull request early, allowing people to kind of fight the idea before it's completed. That way you're not 2 weeks into a project and you find out that maybe one of your primary ideas was off. And so being able to dog food our product works really well in that.
Now, GitHub, a lot of people don't know, but it's more than just github.com. You guys actually, the way you guys work is you guys get to work on whatever you want, and some of it survives and some of it dies. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. It's really fun to hear, too. We throw a lot of drink ups, and we spend a lot of time around the country meeting with different people, and that's one of the kind of things that comes up all the time. Like, you guys get to work on anything, and to set the record straight, pretty close. Yes. We come up with products, but because the global vision is the same, is to make better software for software developers, or to make our jobs easier through these things, then most of the time you don't find a lot of apps that come out that are random. We have internal tools that might not be worthless, or might be worthless to anyone else. But oftentimes we're building bigger things to make the development process better. We're building, we run into a problem with storing passwords for groups and things like that, having central logins. And there's some apps out there that do really well for individuals to save their own passwords, but not larger groups. So out of the problem, Brandon Keepers comes up with the idea of Swordfish and says, you know what, I'm going to build an app to store these things on group levels. I'm going to build, and he kind of did. It was an offshoot of whatever we were doing. But you'll find, because the global goal is still to make the software development process easier, he'll get other people to dive in. He'll get other people to join the core process, because it's making the development process and the designer process and just the technology process easier.
Yeah, we're supposed to end this at 10 minutes, but I'm not going to, because I have more questions. But how, if you're working on something, how do you know when to kill it, or does someone tell you to kill it?
There's very rarely, and I'll be honest, because GitHub has done a great job, and there's a blog article Tom Preston Warner wrote about how we're finding people and hiring the right people and optimizing for happiness. I trust that the people around me are brilliant minds. I work with some crazy brilliant people. And so if I throw an idea out there, there's nobody's malicious goal to say, I don't like this guy, I'm killing his idea. So typically we throw things out in pull requests. We say, hey, I want to build this app. I think this is of high value. And the thread becomes your turning point to say, oh yeah, maybe that's not a core need, or maybe the need is, oftentimes you have a piece of truth in there, maybe with your own biases and things like that. So the group kind of pulls out together. No one ever says stop doing that. No one ever says, but they may say, your idea might be right, it just might not be the right time for it. And because you have a group of people around you that you can trust and you work well with, you can come together and go, yeah, maybe it's right. That might be a project for next year.
Okay. All right. So we have a question from Jordan Skull. GitHub is known as a technical tool, a tool for coders. What kind of impact is GitHub having on the non-technical world?
Yeah, that's a fun question. There's a lot going on in all that, and we've asked the same question inside. If we stayed doing what you're doing, if any business stays doing just what they're doing and not looking outside the doors a little bit, you'll fade. You'll fall away. And so right now, there's a lot of stuff going on with GitHub and the government. You can see there's blog articles, there's news articles out there about obviously the White House having enterprise servers inside of it. You can look at things like the city of Chicago, who's opened up their streets and map division. There's several countries who open up all the legislative laws that literally the community can say, like, I propose this change, and it's simple as a pull request. They push it up, and I don't know what the turnaround of things that they actually get pulled in and adopted, but the concept is the city can have a voice, and the city can submit their ideas that I think this parks and recreation should be changed, and I think these type of things. And somebody on the other end is paying attention and listening, and I think it builds the community and the city and the government and all these other places really well. And there's a lot of advances. There's a lot of things we want to do. There's a lot of things for non-technicals. If you were able to submit a document, and it's more familiar with Microsoft Word style with it that most of the community is familiar with, it makes it easier to submit that pull request. We've talked about the classroom, having all 30 students in your classroom submit their reports via pull requests, and to have peer revision back and forth inside something that they can be familiar with, and have the teacher grade everything online, and have the student even to be able to collaborate on one document can really change the way people do things.
Okay. Well, cool. I mean, we use GitHub at Detroit Labs, and it's been very valuable to us running our business. But we also look up to the GitHub culture, and we take some cues from that as well. But we are out of time. So Matt, thank you for talking with us. Follow him on Twitter at Michigan Graham, twitter.com/Michigan Graham, and we will talk to you later.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.